This episode is sponsored in part by PTZ Optics. Why need a cameraman when you can just do it yourself? Visit ptzoptics.com for more information. Hey guys, it's Friday, so you know what time it is. It's time for the Retro Buzz, and we've got a great show for you. As always, this guy jumping around. What? You just can't sit. This is like. What is this? We have Jumping Glen Planamento. That's going to be his new nickname. I have a feeling we're going to be talking about something to do with your background today, aren't we?
Qbert rocks, man. Look at this guy. He's adorable. You got to talk about some Qbert.
He's a varsity letterman.
He is.
By the looks of that jacket, I'm assuming a high jump track star. I'm
if you took Qbert and made him human, he'd be Doug. That's how cute he is.
Well, so it's a good thing we've got Doug with us because we have the voice of reason, the voice that you're hearing.
I don't even know where to go after that. I don't know if that was a mark on my large nose or I'm used to
I was the one
some Ken doll quips, but to be compared to Qbert, as cute as he is, man.
I was the one with the large nose. We got that taken care of. Remember that was the running joke, right? So
okay, there we go.
I was the one that resembled that the most. But Glenn, we have some special guests with us here, and I'm gonna have you introduce our special guests that we have with us here today.
Well, we're gonna do it first. We're gonna do our game of the week, and that'll actually do it automatically.
Oh,
so why don't we take a look at Glenn's game of the week?
Glenn's game of the week. Is this gonna get me into trouble?
Couple copyright strikes.
So what video game am I playing this week? It's Qbert! Oh shit.
Bye-bye.
Qbert was an arcade game developed and published for the North American market by Gottlieb in 1982. It's a 2D action game with puzzle elements that uses an isometric graphics to create a fake 3D effect. The object of each level of the game is to try and change every cube in the pyramid to the target color. Sometimes that's hitting the cube once, but it may also, as higher levels go on, take multiple times to get the right color. The player does use a joystick, but unlike most arcade games, not an 8-way or a standard 4-way. It's diagonals only. Which is kind of why it's also been hard to port the game to the home because of that. The designers were Warren Davis and Jeff Lee. I honestly can't name all the platforms that Qbert was released for, because it had a ton. But some of the more common machines you can find Qbert on, of course, was the arcade, the Atari 2600, Atari 5200, Atari 8-bit line, and ColecoVision, which probably had the best port of the early consoles, Commodore 64, Game Boy Color, MSX, VIC-20, and Intellivision, NES, the Bang-the-Box Odyssey 2, mobile platforms, SG-1000 from Sega. They had a standalone tabletop version, the TI-994A, ZX Spectrum, Game Boy, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, PlayStation Vita, Dreamcast, and so many more. Qbert was very well received in the arcades among the critics. The game was Gottlieb's most successful game and among the most recognized brands from the golden age of arcade games. As I said before, it was ported to multiple platforms, and it did so well. There were some sequels made for Qbert, but never quite reached the same level of success as the original Qbert. One of Qbert's most notable characteristics is his swearing. His incoherent phrase is made of synthesized speech generated by the sound chip. So when you play the game, you're the player of Qbert, who starts out each game at the top of the pyramid made of 28 cubes and moves by hopping diagonally from cube to cube. The landing on the cube causes it to change color, and then changing the color every time to get to the target color allows the player to go to the next level. Now, again, Qbert, like Pac-Man, is fairly well known who the bad guys are as well. You have Coily, who's a purple egg that comes down and turns into a snake. You have Ugg and Wrong Way, two purple creatures that hop along the sides of the cubes and try to smack Qbert. Then you have Slick and Sam, two green creatures that descend down the pyramid and change the colors that you put the right way to the wrong way. So you have to do them all over again. Qbert from 1982 is one of the most recognized video game characters, right up there with Pac-Man, Mario, and Donkey Kong. In fact, from a standpoint of products, Qbert was up there with the best of them. You saw Qbert as plush toys, Legos. You saw him in movies like Wreck-It Ralph.
What's he saying, Felix?
Stand by, handful. That was smooth. That was very smooth.
He was pretty much everywhere. He even had a TV show on the Saturday Supercade. Right there was Donkey Kong, Frogger. Pac-Man had his own show on a different network, but Qbert did have his own show, and it was a fun character. Probably the biggest draw to Qbert was swearing, which of course you didn't know what he said, but you got the gist when you saw those characters appear above his head and got conked on the head. But Qbert, again, is a game I can recommend, and I'm sure you've already played Qbert, but if you haven't, how could you not have? Get some Qbert on. It's available in MAME, and of course you can still find it in many, many consoles, again, from the Atari 2600 all the way up to the Xbox. So that's what I've been playing this week, although I think the guests today might have a little more information on Qbert than I do. So let's get back to them, but remember, no matter what you do this week, remember to game on.
So, as if we had no idea what the show was going to be about, it is about Qbert. You simpletons, it's Qbert. And of course, we have New Wave Toys here, and we have its CEO, Shiloh, here, who brought a special guest, but I'll let him introduce the special guest.
Well, thank you, Glenn. And I'm very pleased to present to everybody the creator of Qbert, Mr. Warren Davis.
Nice.
Hello, everybody. How are you out there in virtual land?
Excellent. I see that Qbert right behind you, and I know we're all fans. I'm going to shut up because I'm in my giddy mode right now because you're on this show, so I'm just going to do this, and Doug, you talk because I'm going to shut up.
I was just going to say it's a pleasure to have Warren on, arcade legend, not only for Qbert, but for your other mini arcade titles that other people maybe are familiar with and maybe don't associate you with. What has he got? Terminator 2, you got Revolution X, you got Cruisin' USA, you got Joust, Qbert. I'm sure I'm missing a couple, but I mean, you've got quite the catalog.
Let me set the record straight, though. I contributed in some small ways to some of those games. I was on the team for Terminator 2 and Revolution X, as well as Qbert. And for the other games like Cruisin' USA, I'm associated with some like Narc and Mortal Kombat, but I didn't really contribute to those games other than creating the digitizing system that allowed them to get the digitized graphics that they used. That was my contribution to those other games.
You say that like it's such an insignificant part. It's such a major detail to those games.
It's no, I don't. Yes, it was a contribution, but what the other guys, these amazing designers and programmers did with that tool is their own accomplishment. Mm-hmm. So I can't really take credit for Mortal Kombat or NBA Jam. That was Ed Boon and John Tobias. That was Mark Trammell and a bunch of other guys. So, that wasn't really, I can't take credit for the games themselves.
Okay, I will take the credit then. Pass it over to me.
And I would also like to point out right up front that Qbert was, there was a Qbert triumvirate who made Qbert, and it was myself, who was the designer and programmer. Jeff Lee was the graphic artist, and Dave Thiel did the sounds. And both of those guys, the game wouldn't be what it is without their contributions. It was really a team effort.
Now, with the sounds that were played on Qbert, was it actually just a sound chip being used for all those samples, or did you actually have a speech chip that you kind of made it say the words?
We had a soundboard that we used for our pinball machines, but there was also a speech chip. And Dave Thiel, as our sound designer, absolutely hated the results of that speech chip because it sounded terrible. This was 1982, and it just wasn't technically up to snuff. But he was so frustrated with trying to get it to say things that he decided for Qbert, he thought, I'm just going to throw random numbers at it and have it speak gibberish. And when he did that, the sound was phenomenal. I mean, that's what really gave Qbert his voice. Just it's literally random phonemes.
And that's what people need to understand today is back then, I mean, there's a couple of games like Berserk and Space Fury that had sound, but it wasn't the most common, thing. And to hear something talking, but something that was like Qbert ease, it was hysterical. I remember people just standing on the machine just laughing their heads off when they heard it make it, clunk. It's like, beep, 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 beep.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was great. It was genius on his part, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Especially with the closed captioning, so to speak, with the speech bubbles and the the translation of that gibberish.
Yeah, and people are constantly thinking they hear him saying something, but it's literally just random.
Mm-hmm. Except for one, he does say. If anyone knows in the chat, he does say 2 words, 2 English words. If you know what it is, put it down in the comments.
And when he says them.
Yeah. Yes. Make it a 2-parter.
It's actually 3 words, Glenn. I don't want to.
Is it? Well, I do.
Please correct him. Please correct him because
we're talking about the same thing.
He actually says 5 words. If you will,
does he?
If we're counting words.
Everybody's getting an education tonight.
Wow.
Yeah. I think the phrase though Glenn was looking at is 3 words, and then there's another one of 2 words.
Right. I'm a man of 2 words. That's why I was saying the 2 words.
Well, whenever you want me to reveal it, let me know.
Well, waiting for this. So far, I got Brad just put in the chat that what I was thinking about. It was 2 words. It was bye-bye when the game had ended. So what were we'll let people talk in the chat, see if they find out what the other ones are, and we'll maybe go at the end and give them out. But let's talk about something else real quick here if we can. Qbert was a great game in the arcade, but we're here for a reason of maybe we can own this at home. Can we?
You sure can, Glenn. Yes, and this is our new release game. Our next game that's coming out is Qbert. We have 2 variants, and we actually have a pre-order on right now at our website at www.newwavetoys.com.
You know what I noticed though, Shiloh, real quick? I did notice one thing, but you have the 2 special editions here. There should have been a third. You needed a third with a Glen's plastic bag edition. They could put the plastic bag over the box to keep it safe from dust. Just for future.
Glenn, you know how well New Wave Toys packages their products. I mean, you're going to get a box within a box within a box with plastic wrap around it. So, I mean, you're already covered.
Actually, Shiloh was very shocked when he saw what I had. He said, "It's still in the box, Glenn." Like, yeah, I got the packing box, I got the inside box, I got the foam from the box. Of course, I still have that.
Well, we use the highest quality cardboard on our boxes, so I really don't blame.
There you go.
So Shiloh, how did you 2 meet? I know that the project obviously started. Did you guys know each other beforehand and this worked, or you kind of started this project and then you met?
Yeah, actually, we've been working on the project for quite a bit of time. Like most of our games, we're not the fastest. We have about an 18-month window that it takes for us to get things right. And in this particular case, there's a feature on Qbert, the solenoid, the coil, the kicker, that was a challenge. And so we always wanted to reach out to Warren, but we waited till the beginning of this year to reach out to get him involved, get feedback, test the game, and see what he thinks, make sure it's correct, and also be the ambassador for our project through the pre-sale period, through the launch later on this fall. So no, we did not know each other, but really great to meet like such a legend and have him involved in the project. Couldn't ask for more.
And I'll add to that as well. They really, the person that should be credited with this special Warren Davis edition is Tony Temple, the arcade blogger. I don't know if you people are familiar, but if you some time ago, he posted a blog about my personal Qbert cabinet that I've had here in my home for the last 38 years. It was an engineering sample. It's sort of a Frankenstein of parts. And, when the game was released, they said, "Would you like to have a Qbert?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." So they offered me this production or this engineering sample and I think I paid them like $100 for it or something like that, and I've owned it ever since. And I almost immediately put in the ROMs for faster, harder, more challenging Qbert, because that has always been my favorite Qbert, and the Qbert that I go to when I want to play. The one that, and if people aren't familiar with the story of faster, harder, more challenging Qbert, it was made right after Qbert, when I started hearing stories that people were playing for hours on a single quarter. So that made me worried, and I thought, oh God, I tuned it too easy. So I basically, Jeff and I, went to work on seeing what we could do to rejigger it and make it a little more challenging. And that was never released by Gottlieb. So I just hung on to the only copy that existed, and it was in this cabinet for 15 years until 1997 or so. I was working for Disney Interactive at the time, and somebody I worked with had connections to the MAME project, which at that time was fairly recent. They'd come out with an emulator for Gottlieb's hardware, and you could play Qbert on a PC using the MAME emulator. So I said, well, I've got these ROMs, and it doesn't require any hardware change. If you can emulate Qbert, you can emulate this. And I handed the ROM images over to him, and he handed them over to the MAME guys, and they, through whatever means they did, they released it out to the world. And so the world has had access to this faster, harder, more challenging Qbert since about 1997.
That's
Unfortunately, awesome. I don't believe in hardware gaming piracy, so I don't have any of those.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely applaud you for, getting that ROM out there to the masses, because something like that, had you not shared it with the masses, would have fallen by the wayside and only got to be experienced by a select few. So the community, definitely appreciates that contribution for sure.
Yeah, I'm grateful for those people who have, burned it into their Qbert cabinets. I've seen, of course, at retro gaming shows, many Qbert cabinets that have been retrofitted to be able to select between the different versions of Qbert, sometimes even including Qbert's cubes, which I had nothing to do with. But if you have an upright Qbert cabinet, it sure would be nice to be able to select any of the original Qbert games, which is kind of cool. And then the other part of the story is that when Shiloh came to me and said, we're thinking of, making your personal cabinet, which just blew me away. Because, like, why, right?
So humble, so humble.
I'm like, okay, I hope people will want to have it. I've been looking at it every day for 38 years. But I told them it really wouldn't be my cabinet unless it did have faster, harder, more challenging Qbert, and that's when they really started thinking about putting that in, and they did. So now you can switch between regular Qbert and faster, harder, more challenging Qbert.
So, Warren, real quick, before we go any further, because I want people to pay attention to what you're saying, we have to give away a license tonight of RetroSoft Studios Retromania. And so I want you to throw in some of this stuff that you can ask a question about to see who's paying attention to your information about Qbert at the end of the show, and throw it out there on Qbert. What do you think?
Yeah.
Sure. If I can remember what I've said by the end of the show.
No. They have to remember. They have to remember what you're saying.
Right. Yeah, but so do I.
Well, see, the pro is you could just make it up, and you can cover your base real quick.
Yeah. I'll throw this out right now. That. This is, maybe some people know this, maybe some people don't, but the tuning of the original Qbert does not change after level 5. Even though you go to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then it seemingly stays on level 9 forever, the tuning tables after level 5 are all identical. It just literally doesn't change after level 5. There's a little bit of trivia.
There you go.
Yeah, seeing as how I probably never got to level 5, I never would have noticed.
I also want to say one more thing, is that if people do give faster, harder, more challenging Qbert a try on the New Wave Toys replica, you can go into settings and make it easy. There are operator settings that are accessible, and you can go and set it easier, and you can also set your extra lives to come quicker. So don't be discouraged by trying faster, harder, more challenging Qbert and it's too hard. You do have the means to make it easier.
Speaking
Now,
of
Ron,
settings,
on
Shiloh,
that note, real quick. I'm sorry, Doug. Go ahead. Go.
I was just going to ask Shiloh, I'm like, could you speak to some of the features of both machines, of the Qbert and the Warren version?
That's what I was going to ask. Good job.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, absolutely. So I think it was a little bit of uncovering, finding Warren's prototype in Tony's blog. And we just thought, this is so cool. It has the different artwork on the sides, which we should talk about because I'd like to know what the thought pattern was behind that artwork. We've never really talked about that. It has the swear word marquee. The art is all slightly different in the control panel. And we're like, you know what? This just makes a really great variant. So let's do a really super limited amount and offer them out to our customers who are, appreciate this type of stuff. And, both games feature, both versions, I should say, feature both games, like Warren mentioned, but also all the dip switch settings, all the menu settings, the test modes, all that stuff. It's all packed inside. These are the types of things we've been trying to build into our cabinets as we've progressed through the years. And we just want to have as close to a pure, arcade ownership experience as you could without actually having the real machine. So that's why working closely with guys like Warren really helps us ensure we're doing a good job and keeps us humble. But I also want to mention, just right down to the textures on the side panels, they're going to be different on both versions because the artwork on Warren's prototype is actually painted on, where on the regular production version, it's vinyl decals like we have on most of our cabinets. So another difference is a coin door, early version of the coin door with the Warren Davis edition as a Gottlieb raised letter coin door. And they later changed that, and it was not a raised letter coin door for the production versions. So we try to replicate as much as we can, including all the decals that Warren has added to the cabinet over the years. This is going to be our first cabinet with a lot of hand distressing because we're trying to get the right wear and tear. And we're really going deep in trying to, capture every detail we can of the way Warren's cabinet kind of sits in his house today.
That's
excellent.
Excellent. Now, is both units going to have, which you have in some other units, we have HDMI out and maybe external controller options for people who want to play that way? Or is it?
Yeah, those are standard features now that we'll have on most games. That makes sense. A lot of people like the HDMI out with the controller support. Allows you to kind of kick back and play on the big screen. I guess the biggest, I already mentioned it once, but it's the knocker coil. And I always wondered, why does Qbert have a pinball knocker inside it, right? So I asked Warren, it was one of the first questions I asked him, and I was really surprised with the answer. And Warren, if you would, why don't you share this story with us behind the pinball knocker coil?
Sure. So when we were making Qbert, we had Qbert, jumping off of the pyramid and plummeting to his death. And one of our engineering techs, a guy named Rick Ty, said, it'd be cool if you put one of the pinball knockers in the cabinet. And so, like when he hit the ground, you'd actually hear a sound. So I thought, yeah, that's a cool idea. So we put it in. It was a dip switch controllable. So if an operator didn't like it, they could turn it off. We put it in, and I liked it, except the sound that I was looking for was the sound of like a body hitting the ground. And the sound it was making, like a hard knock, like you're knocking on a door. Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, is there anything we can do to soften the sound? So we tried a number of things, and one of them was we put a little piece of foam, like a little piece of the foam that came at the end of tubes of integrated circuit chips. It was a very small, tiny little thing. And if we put it on the cabinet right where the knocker was going to hit it, it softened the sound just enough to make it sound like a thud rather than a knock. So I was very excited. I thought this is a great feature. And we went to management and we said, can you do this? And they said, well, you know, we could put the knocker in, but to actually have somebody go into every cabinet and position this little piece of foam just so, and to have it stay on, and they thought that was going to be overly labor intensive during the production process. And so they said, yeah, we'll do the knocker, but we won't do the foam. And so, as cool, you know, people love this feature, and as cool as a feature it is, I am aware of, you know, how much better it could have been. And I actually have put a piece of foam in my personal cabinet here in my house. So it does soften the sound just a teeny bit, and I'm much more happy with it. But I will also say that having seen the prototype, their knocker sound, I think, is a little softer than the actual knocker. For whatever reason, I don't know. I'm sure it's not because they put a little piece of foam in, but whatever technology they're using to get that knock, yeah, it sounds close enough to the production cabinet, but also a little softer. So it sounds.
You have to remember their machine is smaller, so theirs is a little piece of foam. That's why, you know.
It would be a very little piece of foam. Yeah.
It is just really great that worked out. You know, that we were so happy when we heard back from Warren. He's like, you know what, the knocker sounds like really good. You know, we're like, all right, cool. You know, so because it was a pain in the ass getting it to work, but it's well worth it. It had to have it. I mean, we're not going to release a Qbert without it. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because a lot of the arcade versions, actually, the coil stopped working, I think, or they just turned it off. You know, so some people might not even know that it was there. But I just thought it was so interesting that it was meant to mimic the sound of little old Qbert hitting the bottom of the cabinet. You know, it's so awesome.
Real quick, we have a couple of super chats in here. Zohar has always been around. We got a super chat from Zohar saying, Charlotte, I'm a huge fan of your products. Are there any plans to release a Mortal Kombat next year? We should have known that was coming. Sorry, guys. I'll shut up now. So do we have any Mortal Kombat potentially in the future?
Anything's possible. I'll tell you that much. We learned a lot by making Street Fighter 2 about fighting games, and we dialed in our controllers and everything. So hey, you never know. Stay tuned.
We have another one from Retrosoft Studios. Keep up the great content, guys. It's only because we have you two on, so we appreciate you guys coming on today.
Absolutely.
What else do we have here? Some more super chats. Zohar again. Charlo, are you and Ed Boon friends?
Yes, we know each other. I've worked on a couple of projects with Ed. Lego Dimensions being the most recent. So yes, no Ed Boon.
Okay, I think we have just one more again from.
I'll just add one more thing.
Sure.
We also, in my previous job, worked on a really great Mortal Kombat fight stick that was the collector's edition version for Mortal Kombat 8, maybe, I think. I'm not actually.
The Xbox controller?
Yeah.
Yep, I have it.
Yep, the Xbox controller they made that. So
fantastic fight stick.
Yeah. So yeah, Ed's very, very. He's on the same page as us. He wants everything accurate, right type of joystick, you know, all that kind of stuff. So
it's important. Awesome. That's why I appreciate about you guys, because when you make something, it is those little details. The controller, as everyone knows me, the controller is your interface to the game. And if you put in a larger controller or the wrong controller, or trying to make one controller do another task it wasn't meant to, it takes away from the game. Like minor controllers, a lot of people with their Xbox and PlayStation controllers, you don't look at the controller. You know, they're just doing it like this. That's how the controllers have to be. So the attention you guys put to your controllers, because they are small, but the thing is they're small, but they're extremely usable. They're robust, and they just feel right. So I take my hat off to you guys for the work you do in those.
Thanks. That's why we're so slow.
Yeah. And Qbert's a fine example of one of those where you have to get the control schematics, correctly done. I've seen Qbert thrown in a bunch of, MAME style multicades with a standard up, down, left, right joystick, and obviously it doesn't translate at all. So it's great that you guys are able to replicate it authentically and not only do it the right way, but do it the right way on such a small scale.
To be honest, changing the direction of the for the Qbert joystick, it was pretty. I mean, all we had to do was
rotate it a quarter, 45 degrees. Yeah.
So that was actually quite easy.
Shallow, I got to tell you, buddy, there's something I learned from Star Trek, and it was Scotty. You always make it sound difficult, even if it's easy. It's going to take me 30 minutes. You always say it was the most difficult thing, but you dialed it in perfectly. Just for next time, Shallow.
Thanks, Glenn.
Here to help.
So
now,
speaking of turnaround, I'm sorry, I was just going to say, speaking of turnaround time, obviously, pandemic still kind of a thing. What's been the major headaches for you guys just trying to develop and create things? Because you've got other things in the queue. Obviously, timetables go completely out the window when you're talking about a pandemic world.
Yeah, boy, it's been a tough year for anybody involved with business overseas, and just the rising costs and the reality we're dealing with now. It's crazy. I mean, raw materials are through the roof, labor costs are through the roof, components, MCUs, super long lead time, paying 200-300% markups on those. We're in a situation right now where we have products that are finished, but we can't get containers to get them over here. And this is a real, I mean, we're not a big company, obviously, we're a small company, but it's a real problem because, our factories are now just full. I mean, we have USB machines, we have that have been sitting for a month that we can't get a container for. And it's not like we're not trying. We're trying everything we can. We just keep getting bumped off the vessel. We just finished 1942. Our factory has no room to start 1943. That's just that they're jam-packed. And it's not just our stuff. I mean, it's some of the other vendors they work with too. So it's a real challenge, and it's very frustrating that, things that were automatic before, really. I mean, booking containers and getting things over, you could book it a week in advance. It was here 3 weeks later. It wasn't unless you get caught in customs, of course, which has happened to us too. I mean, everything's happened to us, but that can happen. But it's a challenge right now, and I hope everybody understands that's why we had to raise our prices. And we try to keep the prices as low as we can. Just want to make it the barrier of entry, and provide as much value as we can. But we had absolutely no choice but to raise the prices, or we would go out of business. We wouldn't. Well,
the two things, as far as raising prices, I think that's pretty much across the board. So it's not like something that you're just doing. It's happening across the board. But I'm actually not surprised about the shipping issues, but I'm actually glad that Tesla and the car companies have been stealing all your CPUs for your console, because I know they've been, jacking up people's CPUs. And I know you probably use the same chips that the AI and the Teslas use, right?
They have. Yeah, well, a lot of the MCUs you're talking about are basically for driving screens, right? LCD screens,
right?
Are obviously in every single freaking thing these days, right? So we just, at the beginning of the year, I mean, we just did our best to procure as much as we could, and so we could keep building cabs. But now it's like, okay, well, we got over that hurdle, but now we can't get anything over here.
You can't get them over here to sell and produce and deliver. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm hoping things change next year. Certainly nothing's changing this year. But we are going to get these over. I mean, we're working every night we're working with several different forwarders, trying to get this done. And every time we're like, yeah, you're okay. We have a spot for you. They don't send the shipping order and then they're like, nope, actually there's no spot for you. So it's tough. It's tough right now, and I think everybody's probably feeling it, especially smaller companies like us.
Maybe you could rent a spot in one of those European cars, just stash it on the front seat and the back seat, and just have them bring it over that way.
Are you suggesting they smuggle, Glenn? That sounds.
I don't want to use that. Smuggle is an awfully harsh word, Doug. I was going to say, you know. And hey, when you're driving cars, they have a passenger lane, don't they? You have a passenger, you go in the special lane. Maybe they can help you that way.
Carpool smuggling. Okay, when you put carpool in besides smuggling, it makes it less offensive. I got it. I don't want to switch gears.
I don't want to switch gears too much, but when Qbert obviously was a hit, how did the concept come about? Who really started with that concept, and then did it change at all from the original concept versus what you actually designed at the end? Was it a totally different game than you came out with?
Well, I tell people it was an evolutionary process. There was no design at the beginning. Basically, because it was my first game that I was totally responsible for. I had been working at Gottlieb since January of 1982. I assisted another programmer and doing some little tasks for him on another game that was his game. And then when that game was done and I was free, they basically said, all right, you know what you're doing now. You know as much as you need to know. Make a game. And the way Gottlieb ran at the time is you didn't have to pitch an idea. They just, you just worked. You just worked on your own, whatever you wanted to work on. It was really free and amazing way to launch. I've got to give credit to the guys who ran the department, which was Howie Rubin and Ron Waxman. So, I learned a little bit of the ropes, but I felt I had a little bit more to learn. And one of the things I hadn't done on my first little project was working with anything random or working with gravity. So I just was looking for a programming exercise that would use those two things. And it just so happened that Jeff Lee had created this sort of like Escher pattern that looks like cubes, right? But it filled the screen. And Kan Yabamoto is another programmer, best known for Mad Planets. He was using that for some weird experiment where he was flipping the background in the foreground or whatever. But I saw that on the screen, and I just saw this screen filled with cubes, and I thought to myself, well, it's interesting to me if you carved that into a pyramid, right? So there's one cube at the top, then two cubes, then three cubes, and let's say a ball were to fall on the top cube, it would have one of two places to go when it landed, right? It would bounce to the left or bounce to the right and down. And every time it hit a cube, it would either go left or right. Well, that's binary. That's a programmer's dream, right? Mm-hmm. So if there's, it looked like we could fit 7, levels of cubes, rows, and so there'd be 7 bits, 7 random bits would determine the path of a ball. So this was just an exercise. So I basically programmed random balls falling down a pyramid of cubes, literally just for an exercise. But when people saw it, they were like, wow, that looks so cool. You got to do something with that. So then it was like, well, okay, what would I do next? I guess I'd put a player character on there and have him jump around. So that was a challenge. This is not a 3D environment. So trying to get the physics to look right, that was a challenge. So I did that. And then it was like, all right, I got a player jumping around. What do I want to do next? And literally the entire game was developed that way. I just did something. And then I was like, well, what do I want to do next? Till the game was done.
Pulling ideas out of thin air.
Yeah, but how did the characters develop?
Pardon?
How did you develop the character? So you put a character on the screen for the player. Was it Qbert at that point, or that was still something that wasn't even a concept yet? It was just a player, like a person?
No, it was Qbert. He didn't have that name. So what happened? Jeff Lee was the artist of the group. I mean, there were a couple of programmers who did their own art, but I think for us programmers who didn't do their own art, Jeff Lee was pretty much the only guy. And he was always working on more than one game at a time. So when I needed a player character, I went to Jeff and I said, do you have any characters lying around, things you might have designed that you just don't have a use for. And he did. He did. He put them all up on the screen. And there were like 5 or 6 of them. And they were all, awesome looking.
Awesome, yeah.
And the one that I thought would make a good player character was the big orange ball-like thing with the big long nose, which he designed that way because he envisioned a game where this character would shoot out of its nose. But I wasn't interested in doing that, and I honestly didn't see how I could possibly make that work on a pyramid of cubes. The physics, the illusion of 3-dimensional physics was already challenging enough. I was like, I don't want to deal with shooting something. So I did not use that, but he graciously let me use the character. And then at that point, we were partners. We were constantly bouncing ideas off each other. A lot of his ideas went into the game. I was just the filter, since nobody else was programming it. If somebody had an idea and I thought it was a good idea, I'd put it in. If somebody else had an idea and I didn't know how to do it, or if I didn't think it was a good idea, it didn't go in. That was pretty much how the game got developed.
So Warren, question for you. It's very interesting to me in particular that the first of all, why don't you tell everybody what the first real working title was for the game?
Well, okay, I'm not.
If you want,
I'm not entirely sure. You might be alluding to one of two things. As the game was
snots and boogers is what I'm alluding to.
As the game was being developed, I didn't give anything a name because it was just a programming exercise, and I wasn't ever sure it was going to be a game. Yeah, but I called it the Cubes game. That's literally as imaginative as I got. Now the story is out there that the game was originally called Snots and Boogers, and that is patently not true. It was never officially called that. As far as, from my and you could talk to Jeff Lee and he might tell you another story, but from my perspective, it was just a joke. It was a funny joke because, if he did shoot out of his nose, that would be kind of cool. But I didn't do that. I never considered it. And I never thought Snots and Boogers was anything other than a joke. And I think, somewhere along the line, somebody was saying something about this, and somebody who heard the story, it misinterpreted this as being, the game used to be called that, but it never was. It was just a joke.
That's awesome. And can you also explain when the game first went out for test and also on the prototype, there's what we call the swear word marquee. Was this because the actually game was not named at the time?
Yeah. There was a point in the development where we were like, the game needs a name. I avoided giving it a name for a very long time. And so I went around the office and I took a poll. I literally asked everybody, what do you think the name should be, or do you have any ideas? And I had a list, a legal pad filled with names that all just were, terrible. I just didn't like any of them. So the next thing we had to do was we had to have a meeting about it. But before that, Howie Rubin, our VP of Business Development and a very much out of the box kind of thinker, he was like, well, why don't we just name it the Swear Balloon? And I was like, and I wasn't alone. Of course, everybody was like, well, okay, what are you going to call it, though? How are you, if people want to talk about it, what are they going to call it? And Howie would say, you know what? If this game is as good as I think it's going to be, they'll find a way. And he, at his insistence, test cabinets went out with the swearing marquee of a small number. But I do think at that point we had named the character, and that was a result of a very long meeting with about, 10 people in a room, just talking very seriously about what this character should be called. It was a very surreal, absurd kind of experience to listen to this conversation, but it did result in the name Qbert, and everybody just felt it was right. I mean, it was an electric feeling at the end of that meeting because everybody really did it just felt absolutely right.
Agreed.
To be a fly on the wall. To be a fly on the wall back then.
Oh my God.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I can only imagine, that conference room, people bouncing around the ideas and like the history of this character and what his, psychological profile is and why he should be named this or why he should be named that. Like I can imagine that being a very odd, surreal experience for sure.
Oh my God. Yeah. I had an out of body experience at some point where I just couldn't believe what was going on. And especially as it wore on, because my memory is that it was a fairly long meeting. And by the end, it's like, I think we all just were dying to get out of there.
Well, Warren, another question. So Qbert was the winner. What was the worst name that you thought that someone said? You're like, what? No.
I mean, I honestly, I can't remember most of them, but the only one that stuck in my mind that was a suggestion from one of our managers called, he suggested Arnie Aardvark.
Oh.
Because of the long nose.
Arnie the Aardvark, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's got the same ring.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I get where you're coming from, but no.
Snots and Boogers is better.
Yeah. I'll take Snots and Boogers over Arnie the Aardvark any day of the
week. Yeah. If he shot out of his nose, I'd be wholeheartedly on board with Snots and Boogers, but it wasn't going to go there, I'm afraid. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of surreal experiences, what was it like to see, Qbert be turned into an animated, Saturday morning cartoon?
Wow.
How was that for you?
Yeah, weird. The whole Qbert craze was just, it took me by surprise. I mean, I was floored and I was thrilled, but I mean, it was a little surreal. Of course, we laughed about it at the office because, we just thought it was ridiculous. The whole, Qbert in a Letterman jacket and, he's in high school and he's got arms, like what so it was not, I mean, we had no input whatsoever.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think, we could have come up with something a lot better if it was just left to us. But, maybe not arable. Maybe not arable on
Well, with the success, though, of you did have an animated series. There were plush toys. There were all kinds of toys. It was in movies recently, obviously years later. But back then, did that help you in your career with the company? That like elevate you to like, wow, first game he comes in with, and it's a hit.
He's the golden goose.
Yeah, I have to say it did. The nice thing about it was it was our best-selling game. It was Gottlieb's best-selling game ever. The only thing that I think even came close to it was Mach 3, the Laserdisc game.
I love that game.
And it basically gave me carte blanche to explore whatever ideas I wanted to explore, and I guess I earned a reputation for being reliable, but that only gets you so far. And Gottlieb kind of got into trouble because that philosophy of letting the programmers just sort of do whatever they wanted, as the company grew and as the video department grew, it did not result in the number of hit games that they were hoping it would.
Oh, too much freedom.
Yeah, exactly. And so then, things kind of started to change and they got a little more, management had to oversee more what was going on, and, the environment changed. But even through that, I kind of was left alone. I mean, I kind of was, I wasn't, I was subject to new rules, but I think again, they knew that I was reliable. So. Yeah, but it certainly was a great calling card as I went ahead in my career. Yeah.
Who wins in a fight, Pac-Man or Qbert? Who wins?
Well, I mean, it's obvious. Qbert, can you see this thing behind me?
No.
Yeah, I was about to say. Yeah.
That's a drawing that was made by Rich Tracy, who was our art director at Gottlieb back in the day, and after Qbert's success, he gave me that as a gift. It's Qbert stomping on Pac-Man.
I wonder if Nintendo borrowed that stomping style from Mario and Super Mario Brothers, because obviously Qbert was stomping on people's first, or people stomping at his head first before Mario was doing it. So Qbert was an innovator.
Well, all of video game design is somewhat synergistic. People will draw on everything that came before and pull things from it, and that's just sort of natural. It's natural to any kind of creative art, music or movies. You'll see that all the time.
Yeah, everyone does copy me. I get the age going here. People copy. It's okay. It's all right.
Shiloh, we had a question.
They're inspired.
There you go. Shiloh, we had a question in the chat specifically regarding the quantity of the Warren Davis Cabinet Edition. Is there going to be a limited quantity on that?
Oh, yeah. Yes, big time. They'll be numbered, and we haven't set the quantity. We want to make sure everybody who wants to pre-order one gets in and saves a little bit of cash and gets one. And then we'll have a certain amount during launch for people that missed the pre-sale event. So I don't know how many it's going to be. We don't know because we want to get through this pre-sale period and see how many we pre-sell. Then we'll announce the number after that.
So at least you'll make sure people who want to pre-order it can get in on that pre-order. So you'll make sure you have at least that many, and then maybe it'll on the top after that.
Yeah, well, we'll cap it at a certain point, if we have to. But we again don't want to fuel the eBay crowd too much with their crazy high prices, and we want to make sure that people that are building arcades in their homes can add whatever they want, not having to pay through crazy prices that our cabs are going for now on the secondary market.
Are you surprised about that? About how they've really shot up in value?
No, because we think they're pieces of art, and we try to keep it limited enough that there's enough out there for everybody, but at the same time it's just not flooding the market, and in turn us having to mark products down and blow them out and stuff like that. So it was always kind of the goal is that you buy this, our products aren't cheap, but they're going to retain their value, and they're actually going to grow in value.
Yeah, which is what you should absolutely hope for anytime you invest in a collectible. I mean, you don't want to pay a price for something and immediately, like the brand new car where you drive it off the lot and it loses its value in thousands of dollars. You don't want your new Qbert cabinet to be worth $50 the moment you unbox it. I mean, the fact that potentially, if God forbid you needed to scrape some cash, potentially you could make $100 back. So I mean, that's a good problem to have. That just goes to show the demand for the product and the quality of the product.
So everyone out there, Charlotte just said, don't buy Bitcoin. Take all your money and invest right now in New Wave Toys products.
Yeah.
Yes, that take financial advice and do not buy Bitcoin. Yes, just buy our stuff. Thank you, Glenn.
You're welcome.
But if people are on the fence, Shiloh, how long do they have until the pre-order window closes?
Well, we're actually trying to run it for 3 weeks. So we just started yesterday, so there's time. We did something different with the game announcement this time around. And I think it's confused a lot of people because we've never done anything like this before. And in fact, it's not a very common practice that anybody really does this type of marketing. But we took the original arcade flyer, shrunk it down, printed it on some high quality cardstock, got a nice cover for it, cardboard covered, special Qbert envelope, and we have been mailing out thousands and thousands and thousands of these to our awesome customers all over the world. And it's an experiment in some ways, and a lot of people are really excited to get it. And so far it's been a good positive marketing experiment.
That's what's really cool about Shiloh and New Wave Toys. You even on your products when you get them, you put all these little extras in there. Sometimes I wonder how you do it at the price point, but we appreciate that. I mean, when I got it in the mail, I was like, what? I'm like, oh, I know what this means. So it was really cool. They did that. But really quick, I want to get this in here if I can with Warren. Warren, we wanted you to ask us or ask the audience, if you can, a trivia question that we can do this giveaway for. So if you thought about something that you can put out there for one of our people to maybe get right and win something from the show.
So do you want something that I've said already, or do you want something that I haven't said?
Doug, what do you think?
Dealer's choice.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Boy, you guys put me on the spot.
Something he said, Warren.
All right. Well, I'll go back to what I said earlier, which is, what is the hidden secret about the original Qbert that very few people know about the tuning of it?
Oh, there we go.
Oh, that is a good one.
Yep.
And we also still need to address the other phrase that Qbert says.
Yeah, I may have missed it in the chat. We've been talking so much, I haven't paid attention. But before the show ends, we will give the answers. I remember him saying, bye-bye. I still don't want to remember. Maybe it was insert coin? I don't know. I know Berserk did that. Give me your money.
Looks like we got a winner with user Rogue Lyrics on YouTube talking about the level 5.
Level 5 is alive.
What about level 5 though?
It's true. Yeah.
That's half the answer.
You'll have to go in. All right, we got a couple people regurgitating level 5. Brad O'Connell says level 5 is as hard as it gets, which is
that is a
technically the complete answer. Yep. So, Rogue, you were close. Brad got it though because he had the complete answer. So it's one of those Jeopardy-esque things. You gotta phrase the answer correctly.
That is true.
Brad O'Connell is the winner of our Retromania wrestling game code giveaway.
Brad brings the game. You know, he's getting answers in there.
Yeah. So Brad, reach out to myself, Steven, or Glenn in a DM, and we'll get you set up with that code.
I won't borrow the code if I have it, so don't worry, it'll work.
Let's talk about that last phrase. So the phrase is, are you ready now? Are you ready for this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's hear the phrases.
I give one hint though. It's in our Qbert pre-sale video we made. It's the very first thing you hear.
Yeah, it's hello, I'm turned on. And that happens when you power on the machine.
That's probably why I never heard it, because it was always on in the arcades when I went.
Yep. Never got that initial boot up experience for sure.
There you go.
Now I will.
Yeah. And bye-bye, I believe, is said after you enter your initials in the high score table.
Right. Was there another phrase too, or was it just those two?
No, that's it.
Yeah. What a gentleman Qbert is with his cordial greetings and, goodbyes. Yeah. I appreciate you guys programming the manners for the little guy.
Well, yeah. And the sexual, innuendo of hello, I'm turned on. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I didn't even think of that. How did I miss that? How did I?
Yeah, of all people, Glenn.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm too starstruck. That's what it is.
I don't know.
Over here.
I don't know if anybody's interested. Do you want to get a look at my machine? I think I can move my camera here. This is going to be a little weird, so bear with me.
Going on a ride.
Going on a ride here. Well, there it is. It's kind of sideways. Oh, this is. Can you see it this way? Ah, damn! I can't quite. I can't quite get to it.
So close.
I'm not even drinking.
Buckle your seatbelts, ladies and gentlemen.
This is so weird. All right, there we go. There we go. You can sort of see it there.
Oh, yeah, I see a Terminator 2 next to it.
Yes, I got a Terminator 2 right next to it. Those are the only two games that I actually have. Sorry, it's behind my monitor, so it's very hard to get the camera back there. But anyway.
Got a nice shot of the marquee there.
That is it.
Side panel art. Yeah.
Have you had any issues with your machine? You had to fix anything, or has it been working like a horse ever since?
It's actually been working really well. I occasionally some of the soundboard gets flaky, but not lately. It's actually been working. But yeah, there have been times where the soundboard's been a little on the flaky side and might cut out, but generally it's been working. Monitor still works. Everything still works. Yeah. There is a short when you on the operator mode switch. So I actually had to use some alligator clip. I need to replace a switch. So it works, but I have to use alligator clips to go into and out of operator mode. So that's a little, but I'm just too lazy to go and fix it.
I mean, it sounds like your typical arcade owner experience, it works, but you got to jiggle this and you got to touch this together and you got to put the bubble gum here. I mean, that's the joy of owning a full-size arcade machine.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, and I didn't mention this, but the swearing marquee was not the original marquee of this game. I put the swearing marquee in when I brought it home. It came with a regular Qbert marquee, and I liked the swear. I had a swearing one, and I thought, oh, this is just so unusual since they didn't go out. My memory is that they literally were only like 12 of the swearing marquees made, ever. So I don't know if that's correct, but that's my memory. So some historian.
How many of those survived? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you see a lot of them, but they've been reproduced. So I would imagine that most of the ones you see are not original.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how you would tell an original from a replica.
And it looks like you've got the one of the prototype samples there behind you on the shelf.
I do.
I'm assuming everything, you got the, stamp of approval, because obviously you're the person that would know that machine more than anybody.
It's a first prototype, and I've actually sent a lot of feedback to Shiloh and the guys of things that are just slightly off or can be improved, and they're working on it. So I have every faith that the final version will be even more accurate than this is, and this one's pretty accurate.
You can't any better than stamp of approval than the guy who made the game.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, it was surreal to bring it home and actually just hold it up right next to my actual cabinet. It's mind blowing. Yeah.
I know we need to start wrapping up the show, but I do have one more question that you brought that up. When you worked on this in '82, obviously electronics was a lot different. Everything was a lot bigger. Did you ever think back then you would have something that you could shrink down to make something like this back then? Did you ever foresee anything like that?
No. Never. I mean, it's like, why? This was disposable entertainment. It was being made as something to, entertain. And we just thought 6 months from now, it's on to the next thing. So the fact that any of these games have withstood the test of time is just mind blowing in every respect.
Well, awesome. Doug and I and Stephen are very honored you guys both came on the show today. And I know we're going to start wrapping up the show and hand it over to Stephen. But I would like to have you guys on again, especially when we're getting closer maybe to, the actual release of Qbert, if you guys are game.
Love to.
Yeah, sure. You bet.
Absolutely. So now that we are in a more less constrictive society right now and people are able to travel and go, you guys got any shows in the future to where you guys are going to maybe do some trade shows and talk about Qbert in the future? Warren, I believe you got a book coming out or you're working on. Am I correct?
Yeah. I had written a memoir and self-published right before the pandemic, but during the pandemic when I couldn't travel or take it to shows, I found a publisher, and so it's being rejiggered, and it's coming out this fall. So I'm very excited about that. It'll be published by Santa Monica Press, and it'll be available everywhere. And then I'm hoping to do appearances with the book to show it off. And actually that's not the latest cover. If you scroll on that page you're showing it, there you go, that's the final cover. So anyway, but and I'll be going to at least one retro gaming show this year, possibly more, sort of in negotiations right now, but I will be going to the Korgs Con in Columbus, Ohio in October of this year. I'm very excited. I've never been to this show, but I used to live in Columbus, Ohio, and I have a fondness for the town. So if you're in Ohio, please come by October 23rd.
Nice.
Awesome. Did we lose Shiloh?
No, Shiloh's just shocked.
He's just stunned. He's stunned.
Actually, he is there. He's just maybe the connection dropped on his end, but he is there. I'll see.
I hope I can bring. I mean, Shiloh can't say no right now. So
there you go. You can speak for him, and anything goes.
I hope I can bring a couple of units down and maybe sell them. I will also say if anybody ever comes up to me with one of these units, I'd be happy to sign them for them.
That's awesome.
There you go.
Yeah.
What better collectible to have than a Warren Davis New Wave Toys Qbert machine signed by the man himself? I mean, it doesn't really get any more collectible than that.
So yeah, since it's although it would make it inauthentic since mine is not signed by me. My machine at home is not signed by.
I can understand that might feel a little self-conscious autographing your own machine.
It took me a while. I mean, I have to say, it took me a while to get used to the whole idea of autographing things. People do seem to like having things autographed, and I'm happy to do it. But at the very beginning, my thought was, why? Why would you? My autograph is worth literally nothing. So in fact, we didn't talk about this, but I've also done some acting, and when I was starting out as an actor, people would after a show would ask me to sign their program, and what I would sign is, "This will never be worth anything, Warren Davis."
Or just you're very humble, which is kind of cool. But these type of things, like for me and a lot of other people in the community, this was our childhood. This was our sporting event. This was our Superman type of thing. So to us, it's priceless. So I want to thank you once again for creating something that was really fun back in the day and still is.
Thank you for being a fan. It genuinely means a lot to me. It's a gift to have something that people appreciate and really means a lot. So thank you.
I think maybe the earthquakes got to Shiloh because he froze and then dropped, and I don't see him back. But guys, I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. I kind of stayed in the background and listened to the great information here that was being delivered. But make sure if you want to do the pre-order, head over to newwavetoys.com. $129.99 for the Qbert X Replicade, or $149.99 for the Warren Davis edition. And as Shiloh stated, it will be limited quantities, and that's going to go until the end of the month. Glenn, why don't you go and tell everybody what you're working on, because you have the long laundry list.
Yeah, I do. Well, I will say that we have our steering wheel, which will be compatible with the version 2 and USB spinner, coming to market very shortly. We have the boxes all done and sending them out. The version 3 trackball also is complete, being boxed up, and we're getting them out. We're having the same problems that everyone else is having, though. We're even smaller than New Wave Toys, so I can't even get one of those Japanese Beetles to carry a couple over. Work has been progressing on the Akiri Warriors joystick. That's coming out. We're putting some enhancements on it, so it'll be easier to use and have some extra features that even the real joystick didn't have. I have a few people join the team. I have Gary as well as Steven who joined the team, helping us design some things. That's pretty much it, really, that I could talk about. But stay tuned. We're trying to get the Star Wars yoke that's out of stock. We're trying to get them over. But again, maybe I can piggyback off Shiloh. If he gets a little extra space, I can put a couple of yokes on his transport. But I'm just really excited about this Qbert. You know what the hard part is? Waiting now. When you order these things, it's worth the wait. It really is. But you got to wait, and it's tough.
Yep.
There's a lot of guys in the chat room, Kongzerus, saying that he might have to buy this now after watching the show. So,
he won't be disappointed.
Mr. Doug, how many did you pre-order before we wrap out?
2.
He did do 2. So that means, Glenn, you must have had to do 4.
Gotta have one of each. Gotta have one of each.
Glenn, did you do 4 of each? 5 of each?
No, I also only did the 2 right now, only because
now.
Well, I had to because I literally just had my roof done. My roof was like caving in, so the guy literally finished yesterday with my roof. So that was a little chunk of change that went down there. So, but they know I'll get more.
Well, guys, make sure you check out Doug, since he won't promote himself. YouTube.com/CoolToy. And again, we want to thank Warren Davis for joining us. You guys make sure to check out his website, warrendavisshop.square.site. You guys can see it right there in the lower third. He's got a great blog, and you guys can check out his book. And I believe he did say you could still pre-order that, right? You can still get that?
It is orderable on Amazon and
Okay.
maybe even Barnes and Noble, but it won't be released until this fall.
Okay, so there you guys go. Make sure you check it out on your favorite book site, Amazon. I'll probably go over there and check it out. Guys, we really appreciate you tuning in. Really appreciate the great feedback that you had here. Wait. Let's see if we can get Shiloh back. See, this is why I produce and do this at the same time. We're going to get Shiloh back because I want him to be able to sign off if he has anything left to say. So bear with us, guys that are in the chat here. Running double duty here. Shiloh, are you back?
I'm back.
All right, we're just about to say goodbye to everybody, so plug away. I'll pull up your website and again with the orders.
Yes, order now. Don't delay. We need money.
That's probably the best sales pitch I've heard yet on the show.
Absolutely, for sure.
Thank you. No, in all seriousness, take advantage of the pricing. Here's a hint, make sure you sign up for our Insider VIP newsletter, because you will get a discount code and you'll save a little bit more money even on top of what the pre-sale price is already. We're trying to look after everybody who's looked after us over the last almost 4 years coming on. So thank you, everybody. We have the best community. We learn from them, and we couldn't ask for a better community behind our products, and we're really grateful for that. So thank you, everybody.
Everyone as well, if you want, you're on Facebook. There is a New Wave Toys fan page. Please make sure you go on to Facebook if you're on there, search for New Wave Toys fan page, and join. Love to have you. And again, Shiloh, it was great for you to jump in here and get on here and come back even after dropping off there. It was great to have you pop back in.
Yeah. Sorry, but I guess I have a problem with my electrical outlet that I'm not very excited about.
These things happen. But guys that are watching, we really appreciate you tuning in. We'll be back. We'll definitely have these guys back on in the future, maybe closer to launch. And who knows, maybe there'll be some other mini-cades to come out that they can talk about. But guys, really appreciate it.
We do have more coming, so we'd love to come back. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Yes, great to be here. Thank you, guys.
Well, till next time, guys, keep it buzzing.